Time to talk a little Royals baseball here on the Kaufman Corner podcast with you as always. Former Kansas City Royal Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, the host of Breaking the Norm, David Lesky from Inside the Crown with you. Soren Petro here from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're talking Royals baseball. Is it time for Jac Caglianone to go to the minors? We will talk about that. What's best for him long term? Jeff Passan said it would take 3 for $75 million. That was the ballpark he was thinking to sign Seth Lugo. Is that an investment the Royals should be making, or should they be shopping Seth Lugo? Where's Salvador Perez's place in Royals history? Bobby Witt's heating up. Noah Cameron's coming out. That seems to be a frustration for a lot of Royals fans. Chemistry, are the Royals missing it? Maybe we'll get into the minors a little bit. We're talking Royals baseball here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. Gentlemen, the Royals dropped yet another series, and Jac Caglianone continues to not hit, and it's starting to become a problem. Not only is he not hitting less, he's not getting the ball in the air when he makes outs. He has turned into an Eric Hosmer supercharged version, well over 50%
comparison
of the balls on the ground. Big, impressive guy getting off the bus, not doing what it is he was doing in the minor leagues. And because of not just the fact that there's, not putting up the numbers, but the way he is hitting the baseball, which is not what he is used to doing. Is it now officially time for him to get back to the minor leagues and work some things out?
Yep, it's a great question. And I think the quick answer is, I would probably let him ride out the All-Star break and just give him a few more games. I mean, he's hitting, I think, 147 coming into today. And so, the numbers can go down, but from here on out, if you don't get another hit, maybe he doesn't play every day. Yeah, it's probably time. But here's the deal. This is where the I told you so's are going to come out and say, see, it was too early, and you guys talked about that. Look, he needed to come up. The issue is he's 22 years old, and he's never had failure in his life in baseball yet. And so this is the time where he's learned that he's getting pitched a lot more difficult, whatever, tougher than he ever has been. It's a big difference between AAA and the big leagues. And so I would let him play a little bit more, try to get some comfort. I would even let him know maybe a little bit like, hey, you're going to go to AAA. You're going to go back down at the All-Star break, because then maybe that'll clear his mind, and then give him a few more at bats just to soothe it just a little bit. And so he can kind of anticipate that. But the problem is with these ground balls is that there's two things going on with Jac. His swing's still great. His balance is still great. The microcosm of what he's done in the big leagues in the last 3 to 4 weeks is in his second or third at bat last night. Or it was when they brought Spire in, the lefty. So he takes a fastball right down the middle, right down the plate, and then he swings at a slider in the dirt, and then a pretty nasty slider that was down in the zone. And you could see as soon as he swung and missed, his head goes down, he's dejected, his mind is absolutely gone. So the two problems with Jac are his pitch selection. He's swinging at bad pitches, and then he's so far in his head, he takes the fastballs down the middle, and then he struggles mentally, gets down on himself, and so now he's guessing. He doesn't know what to swing at. And that's the sign that a kid so far in his head, he probably needs to go down. So it wasn't a bad thing that he came up. Bring him back up in September. He's probably going to break the season, spring training next year with the big league squad. But it's probably time just for his own benefit. He got the taste, and he'll come back up later.
Yeah. David, what are you seeing? You're seeing a guy that needs a refresher course down in Omaha?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple things. One, I don't think it's wrong to leave him in the big leagues. At this point, it might become wrong very quickly. But I think one, to Les's point, the big thing is when a guy starts to get down on himself like that, that's when the Royals especially say, okay, we got to do something. Like MJ Melendez was sent down because he struggled, but also because they could see it affecting him mentally. And that's a really big part of the way they do things. And you can see it. The frustration is there. And frustration isn't always a bad thing, right? Like it sometimes can mean that you're carrying all that. But what I'm seeing, so he got a double in San Diego on the Friday night and then walked 2 times the next day. I thought he had good at bats. He was over. I think he was over 1, maybe over 2, but they were good at bats. Starting Sunday, I don't know what changed. This is a total arbitrary line, but it's when I noticed things were going bad. But ahead of that, he was chasing 37% of the time, which is a lot. It's not egregious. It's bad. Not a lot. It's a lot, but not Salvy levels, right? Since then, 44% chase rate. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Since then, he's swinging 56% of the time. It was 54 before. Still a lot of swings. It's not a huge difference, but his approach has absolutely cratered over the last week and a half. And at some point, you're not doing him any favors. And I've always thought that there is a lot of value in, okay, this guy got to see the big leagues. He learned what doesn't work. He learned what he needs to work on. And now, even though he's better than everybody in AAA or most in AAA, it's okay to go down and take those lessons and learn and work on them in a lower pressure environment. Yes. So I'm not, 100% he has to go to AAA, but it's getting pretty close at this point because the approach is just so bad right now.
Yeah, and I highlight this from Aiden. He said, people forget it took Bobby a year and a half to become Bobby Witt Jr., right? And I do agree. We don't forget, but I think there are people that forget that Bobby didn't come right out of the gates being an MVP candidate. He had a sub 300 on base percentage. Clearly wasn't a finished product, and he continued to get better. But then he says, so no, Jack should not get sent to Omaha. That would be a catastrophic mistake by the team, allowing that to happen. I mean, no, it would not be a catastrophic mistake, right?
No.
Releasing Jac Caglianone would be a catastrophic mistake.
There you go.
When you say things like the problem, and I understand, the where the sentiment comes from, right? Like I understand that Aiden doesn't want him to go down. We all want him to start hitting at the big league level. But when you say things like that, you leave yourself no margin for what could actually be catastrophic. So overstating that, people do that to try to get what they want.
Right.
We all want is for Jack to stay here and hit, but calling it catastrophic to send him down does not make Jac Caglianone hit any better. And I will point out that Mike Moustakas went on to be a very good player, and Mike Moustakas got sent back. There are many, many big leaguers that went on to great careers that had.
There's a guy named Mike Trout, actually. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he got sent down.
Yeah. I mean, so calling it catastrophic is just a gross overstatement, right? I do get the sentiment, but there's another one here, like Terry, threw my line at me. If not him, then who? I do think that's a good part of it because I think or that is a big part of it because, Les, if we go back to when he got called up, I don't think they really, really wanted to call him up. Like if they were leading the league in offense, I don't think he would have been called up when he was called up. Was he good enough to get the call up? Sure. But I think they would like to have seen more than 2 weeks to know that he had truly mastered AAA, right? He'd had an incredible week against a group of pitchers that some folks told me, like, hang on, let's see what he does the next week, and we'll have a better feel because he's going to face better pitching. And that next week, he did very well. He hit above 300. I think his on base was like 395. He had 4 walks, 4 strikeouts in the second week. So, he was clearly, good strike zone judgment, certainly and based upon his career. 1 home run. They're like, okay, we're going to give him a call. But he got called up because this team sucks offensively, right? They would still have liked more than the handful of bats he had at AAA. So, it wasn't. I know they made the call, but it was as much to help this team now because Jack is a finished. The button has come up on the turkey. It's done. Everybody sit down. It's time to eat. Like, no, we weren't there. That does beg the question. If not him, then who? Right? Like, so what would you do if you sent him down? Now you're playing a collection of guys that just aren't even producing themselves.
Right. But again, if you, no offense to John Rave, no offense to Nick Lofton, no offense to Mark Hanna, but the bottom line is Jack is the future and those three are not, in my opinion. And so you have to allow him to go back down. And so, yes, I love the phrase that my Soren Petro buddy has always said, if not, then who? Right now it's just going to have to be a platoon situation. And the Royals are 7 games under 500, but there aren't any other choices right now. Just because Jack didn't hit doesn't mean you go out and buy an outfielder right now at the deadline, because this team is not proving that they're going to compete. And so for me, this is just this is what it is situation. If I still think Jack should have come up, and if he would have hit, awesome. The fact that he hasn't, awesome. Not for the numbers, not for him, but because it's a lesson that he needed to learn for the future of his big league career and for the future of the right field position for the Royals. I still believe that Jac Caglianone is going to be a perennial all-star. I think he's going to hit 30 home runs in the big leagues. I think he's going to learn plate discipline, and he's just so young. I mean, he gets up there and his facial expressions with failure is still a young expression because he hasn't learned that yet. And so it's going to be a platoon situation. They should have called him up. The only thing I'll say is I'm hoping that the front office staff and the coaching staff, when he came up, let him know, hey, this isn't because our team's not doing well. Your job is not to come up here and save us from a bad offense, because if they didn't protect him from that mentally and emotionally, then shame on them. I doubt, even though they probably did do that, I still hope that they at least told him, you're not coming up here to save this team. You're coming up here because it's your next step. Get some at-bats, learn the game at this level, and we'll go from there.
If not him, then who, David?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a good question. But also, let me read you I'll give you some weighted runs created plus numbers, because that's the easiest way to compare a player. MJ Melendez was at -6. Yes, you can go below 0. That's just insane. Dairon Blanco was 25 in not 8 plate appearances, so who cares? Michael Massey was 26. Hunter Renfroe was 32. John Rave is 41. Jac Caglianone is 14. So if not him, then who cares? Because at this point, and I mean, it's not that. I think that there is value in development at the big league level, especially if you've determined, hey, we're not going anywhere this year, which I'm going to be frank here. I don't think they're going anywhere this year. I don't think it's impossible that they can go somewhere, but I don't think they're going anywhere this year. And if you say, I think it's more valuable for him to develop in the big leagues and fail in the big leagues, okay, that's fine. But if you're trying to win games, it doesn't matter who else, because the only player who has, well, there's 2 players who have batted for the Royals this year who are worse. One is Tyler Tolbert. I didn't list him. He's -9, but he's not there to hit. Kind of a waste of a roster spot, but that's another story. And the other is MJ Melendez. So you want to say John Rave isn't good enough. Okay, I agree. I think the Royals have been pretty much proven right on their evaluation of John Rave. Then in not calling him up last year, in not protecting him for the Rule 5, all that. He's still been worlds better than Jac Caglianone. And so I think that it doesn't matter who else. I think that you have to do something. And the other side of that, again, is the confidence waning? And if it is, he'll get over a demotion. And it's not even a demotion. They can even call it. It's really about making Jac Caglianone the best Jac Caglianone he can be, right? Like that's what their goal is. Yeah. And if that's what does that, great. If he goes down to Omaha for 2 months and comes back in September, less like you mentioned, great. And he comes back better for it, hopefully. Mm-hmm. We obviously don't know. We don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think it matters who else. Honestly, it really doesn't. I mean, and you look in AAA, Okay, Michael Massey's on rehab assignment. You want to bash Massey? That's fine. Also, he got hit on Sunday by a pitch. I think it was Sunday. Left the game, was in the lineup on Tuesday, then was pulled before the game, and then didn't play yesterday. So he might not be back anytime soon. It's hard to say, although it might just be that he's sore. But maybe you call up Cam Devaney and you push Maikel Garcia to the outfield. I don't love that because Garcia is hitting well at third, whatever. Maybe you call up Kevin Biggio again. He's hitting well in AAA. I mean, it's not none of it's my first choice, but you have to do what's best for Caglianone. And if sending him to AAA is best, it doesn't really matter. And also, he's worse than everybody at the big league level right now. So it's not like you're losing anything either.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned that Ken Rosenthal on The Athletic says the Royals are talking about Brian Reynolds, a guy who's kind of been a declining player for a few years, not falling off a cliff, but not great. And he's on the hook for what? I think 4 more years, 26, 27, 29.
He's through 30 with a club option for 31.
Yeah.
So it's 5 more years plus an option.
Right. So I mean, is that the answer? Like if it's a salary dump from the Pirates and you're not giving up a real prospect, right? You're not giving up anyone of consequence in your organization, and the Royals are just willing to take on the money and say, okay, we've got a veteran guy, but is this, are they just going Hunter Renfroe 2.0? He's better than Hunter Renfroe right now, right? But
yeah.
He's a lot more expensive than Hunter Renfroe, and is year 2 or 3 of that, is that where he's going to be? I mean, they've had their eye kind of Reynolds. They've been linked to Reynolds for a couple of years now, it seems like.
I feel like, I remember hearing that in 22. Is that right? Before, I think it was before he signed that deal. There was talk about that too. Yeah. So, I mean, he's been hitting better lately. I was just looking it up because I couldn't remember when he started hitting, but there was a point, I think it was like mid-May. Yeah. May 17th, 288, 352, 493. So a month and a half of much better. And the history is there. I mean, he back to weighted runs created plus. He was 118 last year, 109 the year before, 123, 140. Obviously not the guy he was at 26, 27, but he's interesting. I had mentioned him earlier this year, and then I didn't realize, I thought his 8-year deal ended in like 28. 5 years is a lot of time more for a guy who's already 30. And do you want to tie up your DH spot? Because that's probably where he goes. But at the same time, he's a switch hitter. He's got some pop. I mean, there's some value in that too. To me, I think the question is, are you willing to eat 2030 and maybe 2029 also, and not care about how much it costs? Because if you say, look, if he hurts us in 4 years, we'll worry about it then, and we'll cut him then and not worry about it. Great. That's fine. But I don't know if that's how they do business.
Yeah. Are you on board with that acquisition, Les? I mean, is that
man, I'm hesitant. And again, being a former corner outfielder, and by corner outfielder, I mean a guy that almost never played, but that was my position. I've seen so much of this not work for the Royals. So could that be a fix and upgrade? Yeah, it just feels like for me a lot of money for what seems like it would be just a patch. It's sad that the Royals are in this position where we're still having conversations every year about the failure of corner outfield spots and the lack of production. It's unbelievable. It's almost like the Bermuda Triangle has moved to left field and right field at Kauffman Stadium. It's frustrating. I don't get it. So, I mean, sure, you could, maybe a change of scenery for a guy like Brian Reynolds would be good. Maybe, and yes, you're going to get, even in his decline, you're going to get better production. You're going to get a guy that knows a strike zone. You're going to get a guy that at least is going to give you competitive at bats, which is right now what we don't have in those positions. So would it be better? Yes, but you better have a plan. If you do that, you better have a plan on the other side of it of how you're going to get rid of them when the other guys do it, because you just don't want to be on the hook for that much money. So I got to be honest with you. I'm going to take the low road here and say that I'm right now, I'm indifferent only because there's no other production, but I'm leaning toward the why do it? Because again, like to David's point, when he started off, I don't think either that the Royals are going to do anything this year. They keep losing series. It's frustrating to me because in the Dodgers series last week, starting on Friday, they showed a lot of fight. And another frustrating thing for me was in that 9th inning of the first game when they lost 5-4, Bobby Witt Jr. led off. It was I think it was a full count, and the pitch was 3 inches below the zone. And the guy rung him up. And Bobby, who doesn't say a whole lot, walks off the field. And if we remember, the Royals got the bases loaded, and then Jac hit the ground ball to second, ended the game with a double play. But why did Matt Cottrell not come out there and get thrown out? Why did he not, just for the sake of getting thrown out, to spark fire in a team that in a game like that, they should have won. They probably would have won that game. Now, the next game, they end up beating the Dodgers, I think 9-4, 9-5, something like that. And then they lost the final game. But that team would win more series if it was that team that came out every day. And Q needs to also understand that. So I know I'm pivoting off our point, but I feel like we wouldn't be having some of the same conversations about lack of production, lack of fight, team meetings. If we did that, then it would be a lot better situation. So indifferent on Brian Reynolds, still would like to see more fight from the manager.
Yeah, and it is not just a rental, right? It's not just a rental and a run to try to get, something done this year. It is a long-term solution.
Yeah, it's a hook.
That would solve one of the outfield spots, which I think is an important part of the equation. We'll talk about Seth Lugo and his part of the money after you hear from our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
I do appreciate that we got David back. He was clearly upset with what you were saying, Les.
Yeah, apparently he didn't like what I said. He just couldn't stand it. He just got.
I had to leave. I had to take a walk around the block. All right.
Yeah, I like it. If you're catching us via the podcast, you can be a part of the conversation and see David Lesky storm off the screen. If you are part of the stream, we stream live Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. So be a part of it. We've got a lot of folks here in the chat room commenting about the Kansas City Royals right now. Guys, Jeff Passan said it was probably 3 for $75 million that it would take to get a deal done for Seth Lugo, that's what he thought he would get on the market. He compared him to Nathan Eovaldi's contract. We're talking about maybe giving up something for Brian Reynolds. That would presumably be prospects of some kind. I'm sure it'd be pitching of some kind. And again, it could just, if it's a nothing prospect, then you're basically just taking on the contract. But we'll see if that deal materializes. Should they be putting a deal together, David, for Seth Lugo? Is that money well spent for this club that at one point we were talking about it being deep in pitching, but now has Cole Reagans on the shelf with a shoulder injury, has Chris Bubich with 1 year of team control, and Seth Lugo in his final year of team control? What does this look like to you?
Yeah, it's tough because we don't know what a guy like him ages like. There just haven't been many, because what did he started some games obviously early in his career, but he didn't become a full-time starter for good until 2023 when he was 33 years old. So he's sitting here at 35 with 936 career innings. Does that mean that he is little bit more likely to age well? Does it mean, do we know? I don't know the answer to that. And so my issue is, I think it's a little bit difficult to say I'm going to give $75 million to a guy in his age 36, 37, and 38 season. But at the same time, I also think the way he pitches ages well, because it's not about, his velocity isn't what gets it done. He can dial it up. And, if that goes away, does that does the effectiveness of his fastball change if he can't get it to 95 anymore? If it tops out at 93, maybe. I don't know. But he has 812 pitches, and he throws them at any count, at any time, in any location. If you look at the pitch chart, it's amazing, and it's something that every pitcher who can't throw 99 should learn, honestly, to be able to throw any pitch in any spot. So I think that theoretically he should age well because the innings are low and the repertoire is one that should age well as well. But also it's 36, 37, 38 for a pitcher. And every team that says, oh, we've beat the aging curve loses to the aging curve. It's what happens. And I would be, again, I think this goes back to what is the appetite for eating money? Because if they have to eat the final year of that deal, I think Seth Lugo for 2 years and $50 million, I think is a no-brainer. Yes. Like, I don't think I think there's no question about that, because 2 years is not that big of a deal. You can get out of it. It's, if a year and a half in, you want to cut the cord, it's $12.5 million. It's a lot of money, but it's fine. 3 years and 75, you've got to be willing to eat $37 million on that contract. You have to go into that saying, if this goes south, I don't care. I'm not going to pay the last half, or I'm not going to play him for the last half, and I'll pay him to leave. And that's the question. And if they're willing to do that, then 100%, because I think that there is, at my opinion, 60-40, that contract is fine. I don't think you're going to look at it and go, I'm so glad we're paying a 38-year-old Seth Lugo $25 million, but I don't think you're going to hate it necessarily. But I think there is a chance that you do hate it. And it's a risk, but to the point, we talked about it on Monday on the show. We're talking about it now. We've talked about it before. They have some arms in the minors, but who of those arms are you sure will be up? And right now, the only sure things after 2027 are Cole Reagans, who has a shoulder injury, who isn't a sure thing, and Noah Cameron, who has been really good. But also, I think that we can all agree he's a 4 or 5, probably. Maybe it tops out at a 3. I don't see more than that. And so, you might have to keep the guy who helps you get there, because he's important. He's so important to this staff.
What do you think? Is he a guy that ages well enough? He's worth the money? Are they in a position where they don't really have a choice, Les? How does it look to you?
Yeah, I think they are. I agree with everything with David. And my only concern, though, is that if we get in a position where he decides that he's going to hold out because he's got other players that he knows throughout the league in his ear saying, hey, if you hold out, you can come to us and we'll give you 3 years, $85 million or something like that. And so for me, with the way the Royals are right now, I would try to start getting in Seth Lugo's ear, because Reagans is, hopefully Bubic will stay healthy. Reagans is the way he is. I absolutely agree that Noah Cameron tops out at a 3. He's probably 4 or 5, but still a good 4 or 5. He's a great addition and a great surprise this year, earlier than we thought he would be. And so, I think for all those reasons, I think you need to get him to the best possible deal where he stays. Because if he goes somewhere else, man, you're throwing Bubic, who's coming off of he's had more innings this year than he's had in a long time. He's still coming off that injury. It's not 100%. He's shown no signs of any injury whatsoever. But again, you need more than Chris Bubic to bolster this starting rotation. Lorenzen has not been the answer. He's been okay, but he's not been the answer. We were talking about putting him in the bullpen when Cameron was coming back. Reagans, we just don't know. And so, I would try to hang on to Lugo and do whatever you can as much as possible.
Yeah, I think, should we be concerned? We started this year, David, talking about like trading Noah Cameron for a bat because they were so deep in the pitching, right? But now Alec Marsh, Kyle Wright, they're nowhere to be found as far as coming back. And there was hope that they would be looking to force their way into the rotation or would be depth. I mean, is it a little more dire that there isn't anybody at AAA that's looking like they're ready to go? I mean, does that play a bigger role than people may realize? Is like somebody's got to facilitate these games.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think that Luinder Avila getting hurt is not. I mean, it's not a huge issue because he's not a big leaguer, but I think he's a guy they thought could maybe make the jump this year. I mean, Steven Zobak in AA, he got hurt. He missed time. I think they thought he'd be in AAA at this point, and he might move quick. I like Zobak. I think he's a solid pitcher. But he got hurt and he missed time. And so that hurt a little bit. Ben Kudrna hasn't been good. I mean, the strikeout numbers are there. The walks are okay, but he gives up a ton of hits. The fastball is not a big league pitch, to be completely honest. He throws it hard enough, but the pitch structure doesn't work at the big league level. Frank Mozzicato, not going to be there. Like, it's just not happening. I'm sorry. and so you look at who they have. I'm looking at the Double-A roster right now, and Hunter Owen is not developing. Henry Williams got sent up to Triple-A. Who got hurt? Or maybe it was when Cameron came up, and he struggled. He had to go back to Double-A. I like Henry Williams. I think that he has a chance to be a kind of a 4A guy who can give you some spot start. It's a decent return for Scott Barlow, but it's not a guy you can count on. And the arms in the system, you like David Shields. He's in Low A. Drew Beam, who I think can be a big leaguer really quickly, is in High A. But we can't know what they can do because they're too low. They're not close enough to the big leagues to be able to count on them. And so, yeah, I think that does play a role. I think that does maybe not force them, but implore them to extend Lugo and Bubic. I mean, because at some point you look ahead and you're right. What do you have in 2028? What do you have in, 27 too, I guess, because Bubic is a free agent after 26, but what do you have in those years? And maybe you'd go with the guys who know how to pitch, because to be clear, that's what they've targeted. They've targeted guys who can pitch, not the big arms. And that's what's worked. They've gotten a lot out of Lugo. They've gotten a lot out of Michael Wacha. They've gotten a lot out of Michael Lorenzen, even though he hasn't been great. I mean, he's been what they paid for. He's been a 5 starter, pretty to the T. And he was really good for them last year too. They've gotten a lot out of Chris Bubic, who they didn't trade for or sign, but these are the pitchers who they've gotten the most out of because they seem to be able to work with those guys. And so why not keep those guys?
Yeah. If you're like, well, we'll go sign somebody else, save that money. I mean, are you going to pay for Chris Sale? Are you going to pay for Framer Valdez? Do you think you can keep Freddie Peralta on track? I mean, you look at the list of free agent pitchers. I don't know how much money you save. And Seth Lugo works with your clubhouse, right? Like, so.
And with Brian Sweeney, there's a relationship. I mean, all that stuff. Yeah.
You want to drop down Eric Fetty, Andrew Heaney. There are names that are going to be out there. There are always names. And I will say the one thing that might give you confidence to head out is that you do have Brian Sweeney. And you feel like whoever we get, we're going to make him better. Like, I think that is part of the equation that's there as well. Salvador Perez is moving up the list of all the categories for the Kansas City Royals. What is Salvador Perez place in history with this club, Les? What is Salvador? Has he reached a point that it doesn't matter what he makes and it doesn't matter what he hits? Salvador Perez needs to finish his career as a Kansas City Royal. Where is he in the pantheon of Royals?
Well, it definitely matters to the team that he's playing with on the field. That's for sure. I mean, we still would like him to hit. I mean, you don't just cash in a guy that might be struggling if he gets to a point where he's too old to be playing. But if we're just talking about what he means to the Royals, it would be great if Salvy remained a Royal. Yes, he's going to get his number retired. He's a Hall of Fame catcher. I mean, I was going through some of the stuff today. I mean, as far as top 10 goes, he's 8th in runs scored, 7th in at bats and in games played, 6th in doubles, 5th in slugging, 4th in home runs. I mean, he's climbing those lists. Some of those he'll stay right in that spot. Some of those he'll actually pass, and there might be some more in there that I just didn't want to continue to write on. But, the clubhouse leader, the off the field awards he's won, the humanitarianism, the wiffle ball games he goes and plays in yards with kids. I mean, he's meant so much to the city. He's meant so much to this team. And so, yeah, he's going to be one of the all-time greats in the history of the Kansas City Royals baseball. Hall of Famer for sure. Both, I think, Big League and the Royals Hall of Fame is a lock. So he does mean a lot. He is the glue. The only negative thing I would say is just that sometimes if he's not producing, they just have to let him be on the team, on the bench. And hopefully he'll use wisdom when it's time to retire and then just be a front office guy for the rest of his career.
35 homers away from George Brett's franchise record, right? That's the mark that he's up on the highest. We know he just passed Alex Gordon for 6th on the hits. Les given a bunch of the numbers there where he is. I mean, is this a guy that we're going to be adding 13 to the Royals Hall of Fame? Is that where we are? Is he the third best, second best Royal? Does he belong up on? Does that number belong up there? Where does Salvador Perez sit in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, 13's getting retired. I don't think that's even a question. I think it should. He's been great. And Les rattled off the numbers. Like you said, he's been incredible for this team. I'm really curious what they do with his option because it's what, 13 and a half. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Whatever, around there.
2 to buy him out, 13 and a half to keep him. Okay.
Yeah. So I could see a world where they go. I mean, I was looking at some contracts. Mitch Garver got 2 and 15 from the Mariners. Was he 2 and 24? Somebody got 2 and 24 from the Mariners to be kind of a backup catcher, DH. I can see a world where you tell Salvador Perez, look, we want you to retire a Royal. You're gonna play 100 games a year. You're gonna catch 40 to 50. You're gonna DH. You're gonna play some first base. You'll pinch hit. You might play 130 games because you get the pinch hit at bat in 20 of them or whatever. And I could see where that could really, really extend his career because we talked about it. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about the numbers after days off? And this is a guy, the bat speed's not down. That part of his game that kind of signifies aging to me is not down. The power is down. He's not hitting the ball as far. He's not hitting the ball as hard this year. So does that mean that he's done? I think he's done as a 162 game a year player or 155 game a year player. But I think there's value in his presence on the team playing, like I said, 100 games a year. And especially when you've got a guy like, we'll talk about him, Carter Jensen, who is in AAA, hitting the cover off the ball right now. He started off really slow, but hit 3 homers the last 2 games. I mean, there's a lot of value in having Salvador Perez as your backup catcher. Not to say that they're going to turn it over to Jensen immediately, but I could see that really working for them. He's a Royals Hall of Famer for sure. I don't think he's a big league Hall of Famer. I think he has some work to do. I think he can get there. The book's not closed. He's definitely not to me, but he's got to get some numbers, I think, still to get there. But, ultimately I don't know. Let's see. Brett's number 1 for sure. I think when it's all said and done, I think Witt might be 2. Witt might end up being 1. Honestly, when it's all said and done. But Amos Otis, Salvador Perez, it's Brett Otis Perez to me as position player wise, as the top 3. And I think that Perez is probably number 3. and he has a chance, especially if he does come back in a more part-time role, he could be number 2 very easily.
Yeah. It's an incredible career. And I think less in on it. Can he take a lesser role? I think is a lot of what his future is, because he's got to evolve into that part of the equation. And if he can, I think there is, more of a spot for him. But he's got to recognize what it is. He's got to be willing to be team first, right?
Yeah.
And I think Salvy's better with rest. We've talked about it. His numbers are just better. We'll see if he'll accept it. We'll talk about Bobby Witt heating up, Noah Cameron, after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Your favorites are back. Kansas City now for a limited time at all your KC Whataburger locations. Get the Pico de Gallo burger, 2 large beef patties, 2 slices of pepper jack cheese, Pico de Gallo, and creamy cilantro lime. How about the sweet and spicy bacon burger, 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt. Even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger banana pudding shake. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours a day. Breakfast served 11 p. to 11 a. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. How about Bobby Witt heating up, Les? We've kind of felt like it was coming. We've seen it now. He's raking. Is that the cure? And we're going to see Bobby's OPS push past 900, and now it's time to see the MVP numbers. Unleash.
You mean the Royals cure or the Bobby cure?
Yeah, well, I don't know how sick he's been. It's just like we're about ready to see Superman, when he really gets going right now.
Right. Yeah. When a couple games ago when Kirby was pitching for Seattle and he was swinging at those sliders that were now granted, Kirby's got a pretty good slider. His record doesn't show, I think, this year for Seattle how good as he really is with his slider. But when Bobby is swinging, he's guessing he's not seeing the ball, which is rare. He doesn't do that very often. But like last night, when he's spitting on a slider that's nasty and it's just an inch or two off the plate, and then when it's on there, he's swinging at it, he's driving the ball, he's taking pitches. When he walks and just flips that bat down and heads right to first base, he's seeing the ball well. When he gets in those zones, he can actually carry a game, depending on, who's on the mound, but he can carry an offense by himself. And unfortunately, that's going to be what it takes. So I think it's a great thing for Bobby Witt Jr. because they need a healthy and good Bobby Witt Jr. If they even stand any kind of chance, I would like it for Bobby Witt himself to pick his numbers up because it's a little bit of a down year for him and still having a really, really good year. But it's fun to watch when he's hot, man. And it's not even so much him hitting home runs, hitting doubles, driving in runs, stealing bases. It's just his approach, and people could really study his at-bats, not just in the superstar side, but just watch his timing, watch how he takes pitches, watch how he doesn't commit too soon and get his weight out front. So, it's a treat for all of us to watch, and hopefully there'll be some guys around him that'll pick up suit.
Yeah, it's got to help everyone around him, David. I mean,
yeah,
he's going.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we've talked about this a million times too, but his splits by month, by OPS, 771 in March and April, 817 in May, 802 in June, 1047 in July, 926 in August. I'm not going to read September. But this is when he heats up, and I don't know how you can convince Bobby Witt Jr. that April is July. Not that he's bad in April, but I don't know. Maybe you have to pipe in some heat to the stadium or something. But this is when he gets going. He's looked good at the last. I mean, he struggled. What was that? What was the 4-game streak that he didn't get a hit? I think since then he's really been fine. It was during that homestand against the Yankees and the Athletics. So now we're looking at, what is that? 16 games since then. He's hitting 354, 391, 615. So I feel like we're there. I think I called it Bobby Hot in the newsletter a few weeks ago. I think he's Bobby Hot now. I think he's gotten there last night. Great game. Even when Bobby is going well, he's always going to drive the ball because he's got power. He has such good back control that he's able to get the barrel through the zone. But excuse me. But when he's going really well, he's flipping those singles to right on pitches he isn't able to drive. Whereas earlier in the year when he's struggling, it's a pop-up or a ground out. And so you can really see when that's happening. The big hits are coming all year. It's when the little hits start to come that he goes crazy, and they need him. They need him badly. I mentioned, I don't think they're going to win this year. I don't, but it's not impossible. They're still vaguely in it right now. And they're still, for another few weeks, there's still plenty of time. There's not going to be plenty of time in a few weeks, but right now there's still plenty of time. And if they want to stand any chance, like Les said, Bobby Witt has to get Bobby hot, and I think he's there.
Did everybody else get the delayed reaction of why are you taking Noah Cameron out? I got like 2. I got Noah Cameron is coming out with 80 pitches and he hasn't given up any runs. And then it calmed down because Schreiber got the out and it looked good, but then Schreiber gives up a run. And then it's like, see, I told you. Like, how come you haven't responded to the fact that Noah Cameron should have never been taken out? Les, what do you see in the way this is?
It is amazing how so many people are excellent drivers looking in the rearview mirror, man. It's unbelievable. I don't recommend that, by the way. So nobody go out there and say, Les told me to look in my rearview mirror and then try to drive forward. Do not do that. But look, you don't know a situation. You don't know what could happen. I mean, they talk about the move, the pitching or not. Then why did the offense only produce 2 runs? Why did they not 4 or 5 runs at that time? And then we're not even having this conversation. Then the bullpen did a great job because they only gave up 1 run. So in my opinion, look, everybody has a right to their opinion. I'm not insulting somebody, calling them ridiculous, but sometimes I feel like some of these comments are only hindsight comments because your team didn't win and because it didn't work out. Because the next day when it does work out, we've got the best bullpen in the league. And so, yeah, I think that's a little bit of fickleness, and you have to look at it a little bit deeper. Bullpens are going to give up a run sometimes. Sometimes a pitcher comes out a little bit earlier than you might think because of the way the situation goes with right-handers coming up, with something somebody sees in a starting pitcher that we don't know about, or a split where a right-handed pitcher hits good off of a pitcher that's the type of a Noah Cameron. So 1-run games are going to be put under microscope so much, but let's also point to the fact that it's not necessarily the manager and the pitcher, it's the offense that doesn't score enough runs. I mean, I turned my MLB app on this morning as soon as I woke up, and one of the first things is an article that says the Royals are trying to figure out how to just push that 1 more run across the plate. And so they could have done it, but didn't. 2 runs aren't enough.
Yeah, they're not enough. Noah Cameron was nowhere to be found on any of the top 100 prospect lists coming into this year, David. And Noah Cameron has now on the year compiled a 2.56 ERA. I mean, if you'd have said before the year, there's this guy who's not a top 100 prospect who's going to come up and he's going to log real innings and he's going to have an ERA below 3, you think the manager handled him right? I think we all would have said, yes, very much so. Like, part of this is, they are going, like, if you want somebody to live by the data, you got to live by the data. And the data says that he's not really this good right now. Hopefully he is going to defy it, but the lack of swing and miss and all that say he's not really this good. Is it possible that what we're watching is Matt Quatraro perfectly manage Noah Cameron, much to the chagrin of Royals fans, but he's actually been perfect in how he's handled him?
I think that there is every chance that is true. Here's the thing. People love the unknown, because you can't prove that he was going to give up runs or that he wasn't going to give up runs. And so if you think that he was going to keep cruising, which, by the way, he was not cruising in that 5th inning. Yes, it was infield. It was ground balls, but he threw 22 pitches to get 2 outs.
Right.
That's a lot. You're starting, especially in a 5th inning of work in a stressful game. It's 1-0. These are high stress pitches. The thing about Cameron, he's pitched to 43 batters a 3rd time in 10 starts. And what the Royals seem to never let him do is face the middle of the order a 3rd time. And they got to Julio Rodriguez, and was Rosarena was hitting 3rd. Yeah, Rosarena hitting 3rd, and then whoever was hitting 4th. Polanco, I think, maybe. Did he play last night? Yeah, it was Polanco. So they don't let him face the middle of the order. Oh, well, did he pinch hit? Because they were, I think he pinch hit. No, he played last night?
Yeah.
Well, whatever. It doesn't. The point is that he's not facing the middle of the order. And I think that there's a pretty good reason why, like you said, he's doing so well. It's like, why does the platoon player have such a great batting average, and then when he starts to play against lefties, he falls to 260? Well, it's because he played against the guys he can do well against. He was put in a position to succeed. And what that inherently leads to is people thinking, well, if he succeeds in this, he's going to succeed in this. And without knowing that, you can't be wrong. So I think it's a great point. And I want to shout out Royals Data Dugout. It's a great Substack out there. He made a really good point that Dalton, I believe is his name, who runs it, that the 5th inning, he had 6 pitches that he threw just center cut that didn't get crushed, but he was not locating well. A lot of pitches were completely non-competitive. He was not pitching well in that 5th inning. It's not like I sort of at least understand it when he goes, okay, 1, 2, 3 on 12 pitches and he doesn't come out for the 7th. Okay, I at least understand questioning that. But Noah Cameron didn't pitch well in the 5th inning. Like, he deserved to get pulled there. And I think that, I think the Royals are doing him a service by putting him in positions to succeed. And instead of blaming the manager, maybe John Schreiber doesn't need to put a cutter, middle to Randy Arozarena, whatever it was, doesn't matter. Maybe Angel Serpa could, throw some strikes, not give up hits. Maybe he could throw to second base in a timely manner to get that out. Like, if the players, again, this comes back, if the players perform, the manager, he made the right decision. And that's not how it works. It's the players need to perform, and they just didn't.
And to Les's point about the not hitting, Les, I mean, the one thing you do have to like, I mean, he is not getting run support, and he's not wilting, right? A lot of times everybody will say, well, if you give him some run support, but he's got to go out there and just feel like he's got to strike everybody out. Well, he hasn't gotten any run support, and he's still been able to be top shelf. I mean, that is a badge of honor for him. Sure.
It shows moxie out of a guy that doesn't have a lot of big league time. It's maturity. He's throwing his own game and not getting out of it, and that's what you want pitchers to do. They shouldn't go out of their normal repertoire, try to do something that they're not used to or can't do, just because you're trying to compensate for a feeble offense. And so, hats off to him, and hats off to you for even recognizing that. I'm proud of Noah Cameron for sticking with his game.
Yeah, there's nothing not to like about Noah Cameron, but I think I think people do need to understand there are limits. Noah Cameron does not project as a number one starter. So he should not be managed as a number one starter. How about the chemistry? Is that missing, David? I mean, MJ Melendez, Michael Massey, you talked about this, that kind of their place, we understand why they're not around, but is that somehow, are they not clicking because the fellas aren't all together?
Look, so I was on ESPN Wichita yesterday, and with Chance Lebo, no relation to Todd, I don't believe, spelled differently. Maybe they're related. I don't know. And he brought something up that I hadn't thought about, that Melendez was kind of the vibes guy on this team, and there's no way to measure it. And I'm not saying that they should have kept Melendez in the big leagues, because he clearly earned his demotion. But it's interesting to think about, at least, because everybody talks about, they don't look like they're having any fun. Well, why would they? First of all. Second of all, I've heard this a million times, but when a team isn't scoring, it looks like they're flat and they're not having fun. They're not always flat, and they are sometimes having fun, but it just doesn't feel like that. So maybe it means nothing. But the other side too, Michael Massey has won the Good Guy Award. What is it, 2 years in a row or 3? I think it's 2. I've heard Vinny Pasquantino say this before. I've heard other people say that he's kind of the glue guy on this team. And so I wonder a little bit if, like, maybe they are missing some of the components. And I don't think Melendez is the guy necessarily who they're missing. It just made me start thinking about it when Chance brought that up yesterday. But I do wonder a little bit, like, is that clubhouse presence from particularly Massey that important? And they're 6-14 since he went on the IL. Now, they were 10-16 before he did. So, that kind of goes against the point. And I don't even know if it is a point, but you at least think about it. You at least think about things like that, because the clubhouse is a living organism that it does. You disrupt one thing and it can impact a lot of different things. So you wonder a little bit, maybe there is something there.
Les, what is that? How much does, the clubhouse actually matter to the performance on the field? Certainly playing well, I think, helps the clubhouse, but how much does maybe the chemistry of the guys affect the performance on the field? Any at all?
I mean, sure it can, and a little bit of a crutch, but these are grown men making a lot of money. Look, in 96 was my full year in the big leagues, and we waited the whole season. I finally get to Chicago, which I went to college in Joliet at University of St. Francis, College of St. Francis at the time. So it's, 40 minutes away. And a reporter came to talk to Bob Boone. They were doing there was a local story on me at the time. Didn't play the first 2 games of the series. I think it was the last game of the series. I got out on deck. They announced me to go pinch hit, and I was excited playing in front of my fans. Then I get almost to home plate, and Bob Boone calls me back and pinch hits for me with another right-hander, Joe Vitiello, and I didn't even get a chance to hit. And they asked why he did it, and Bob Boone said, Les Norman didn't get a full year of the big leagues here because he's a good hitter. It's because he's a nice guy. Well, that didn't do anything for the clubhouse. And that might be more of an attribute of Bob Boone being not a good manager and personality issue. However, nice guys still need to produce. I get the whole clubhouse thing. And if Michael Massey's a nice guy, I think character is more than anything. Your moral fiber is what matters. Bank account doesn't matter as much as your moral fiber and character. Absolutely. But as far as wins and losses, it doesn't translate. So you got to be able to figure out if it's a nice guy, but he's hitting 200. If Michael Massey comes back, he still has to produce. Next year, if he's healthy and he's going to play on this team, he still has to produce. Vibes are great. Good guys. They're awesome. And you don't want a clubhouse of guys that aren't cool. But this Royals clubhouse culture has been good for a long time now. Since the Hosmers, Moustakas, and that whole crew. I wasn't a fan of Gerard Dyson being the leader of this team when I heard that. But, hey, for them, it's great. So bottom line is good guys are great, but they still have to produce.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear, too, real quick, that I don't think it's an issue. But I thought it was interesting when he brought that up that you think, oh, yeah, things are a little different this year. And those two are not there.
Yeah. No, it's a part of it for sure. I mean, I think you want a good group that gets along. I think that can help. But the bottom line is you got to play. Les is right.
You got to produce.
You got to perform. Let's leave on a positive note. Carter Jensen has started to perform at AAA. 3 home runs in the last couple of games. David, what's still got a long way to go, numbers wise. I'm not saying call him right up, although there are some that will say that. But what is his timeline to the big leagues, and how does he fit for this organization that already has Salvador Perez and Freddie Fermin? Yeah,
he's interesting because you go back 23, he got to high A, Quad Cities. That was his I think he repeated that for a good chunk of the season last year. Didn't hit well. 211, 363 slug. Yeah, he played 85 games there last year. Again, hit well, 271, 386. Moved up to Double A. I think he started slow in Double A and then ended up 233, 300, 480, which is fine, not great, but fine. Then he went back to Double A, 292, 360, 420. Like he takes a little bit of time to adjust to levels, I think. But he's up to Omaha. He started off, was he 1 for something? And the 1 home run was
1 for 25. The home run, it was a home run, but the home run was off a position
off a position player. Yeah, and then he hit 2 on Tuesday, 1 yesterday. He's only hitting. He's 5 for 31 with 4 home runs in AAA, and I think that it's a double. Yeah, and I think it's important. 14 strikeouts, no walks. So he is not a finished product. But no. I think that what you're looking at is, and this goes back to the Salvy conversation. I wonder if maybe they exercise that option and then look at the 2-year for $12 million deal or whatever, and say, look, Carter Jensen is going to come to the big leagues at some point next season. And Carter Jensen is probably going to struggle in the big leagues when he comes up. So he's going to play behind Salvy and maybe behind Fermin too. And he's going to get, 25, 30 games or whatever it is, and hope that he hits the ground running in 27 because that's his pattern. And it's get to a level, struggle, repeat the level, do well. Get to a level, struggle, repeat the level, do well. And so I think what you'll see, I think he's going to get a shot to make the team out of spring training. I don't know that he will, but I think you're looking at a 26 debut for Carter Jensen right now, if he's not moved for somebody else, which I'll say quietly.
Yeah. How would you handle it, Les?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing for me that David said. For all you Park Hill alum out there and Royals fans, happy birthday to Carter Jensen. He turns 22 today, as a matter of fact. So happy birthday. But he's still 22. It doesn't have a lot of experience. He's got a lot of power. He does swing pretty hard. And so I think he's going to be another guy that as he faces better and better pitching, they're going to start throwing him a lot of softer stuff, a lot of away stuff. Right now, he is hammering mistakes. He did get, everything's been a slow start, and then he hits his stride and does well. So that's fantastic. I love that. It's better to do that than get hot and then struggle, and then your whole season is shattered. So I like his size at 6 foot 210. I like everything about his swing, like his base. I think he's got a bright future, and he's going to probably be, if everything continues to project out, the Royals catcher when Salvy's done. But I just don't think it's his time yet. He'll get a taste. Spring training next year will be good for him, but I think an everyday player, he's probably a 27 at earliest, and he just needs to develop a little more as a package on the hitting side. I love his defense. I'm excited to see him and Mazzucato play in the Futures game in a week and a half. That's going to be fun to watch. It's a big honor for him, deservedly so. But yeah, he's just got a little bit of time, a little bit of seasoning. He's got power. He still has to learn how to hit, but I think he's going to be a mainstay, but not till 27.
Yeah, he will take a walk, or at least has in his career. But we've seen guys that have had on-base percentage in the Royals minor leagues, and then they get to the big leagues, like see Nick Lofton, and suddenly you're like, where did that all go?
Yeah.
You know? So, but yeah, stay patient, people. But there is good news. Carter Jensen is starting to take to AAA. That is a positive sign. No doubt for the Kansas City Royals. Listen, you can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors like David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Give David and his crew a call if you've got any questions about your insurance. 816-781-7331. Northland Injury Laws, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. Whataburger, open 24 hours a day, and now for a limited time, you can take advantage of the Pico de Gallo burger, the sweet and spicy bacon burger, the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich, and my personal favorite, the patty melt. Go get it today. Wash it down with a banana pudding shake, serving breakfast. 11 p to 11 a if you're hungry. Whataburger is open. And our friends at Greenlight Dispensaries with 15 locations in Missouri and more on the way. Greenlight is the go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you saw Greenlight right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. For our man, Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, David Lesky from Inside the Crown. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.